I'm Sienna. I'm the kid.
I'm Sarah. I'm the mom.
This is Queer Kid Straight Mom.
Let's talk. Welcome back to Queer Kid Straight Mom. Today we are talking about bisexuality. I don't know statistics. I would think that's a pretty common queer identity.
Yeah, I mean, a way to think about it is that if sexuality is a spectrum, then you have people who are exclusively straight on one end and people who are exclusively gay on the other end, and everyone in the middle is some flavor of bisexual.
And I think people are more in tune with, oh, this is attraction I'm feeling toward the same sex, because it's just so much more, in many circles, more acceptable. But I think it's also very misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
Because, there's, oh, you're just trying to get some sort of, I don't know, some kind of authentication from the queer community because you think it's cool, or, you're just trying to. So I'm also queer. I think there's this idea that when you're bisexual, depending on who's looking at it, what their criticism is, your relationships with men or your relationships with women aren't legitimate because, you see a lot of I've seen this with celebrities. Oh, she says she's bisexual, but she's only ever publicly dated men.
Mm-hmm.
As if it's a lie. It's just kind of a thing to get attention. I mean, to me, why would you say that you are if you can have straight presenting relationships? But yeah. So just a lot of misunderstandings about it. I have also heard, that bisexual people feel like they're assumed to be unfaithful.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll touch on all of those things. As a person who identifies as bisexual yourself, what do you think is the most troublesome stereotype from your perspective?
I don't know. There's lots of troublesome stereotypes. And this is an interesting kind of window into bisexuality, I guess, too, because bisexuality is what I would say if someone was really aggressively put a label on it. Tell me what your sexual orientation is. I'm like, well, I guess I am attracted to men and women and non-binary people. So I guess I can be bisexual. That isn't necessarily the language I prefer to use. I prefer to just identify myself as queer because it feels like there's so much nuance within that experience of attraction that a particular label doesn't necessarily capture, and so much, uncertainty, and just that it feels bothersome to have to reduce it down to, one word that people are going to, again, make assumptions about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there are a lot of people who also feel that way. And there are also people who feel like bisexuality is a really useful, important label to them.
Actually, that just made me think of something that I think a lot of people are unclear about, that maybe you can help clear this up for people. One of the things that I hear sometimes is okay, so if bisexual means that you're attracted to men and women, what does pansexual mean? People don't understand because they think of bisexual as, oh, that means you're attracted to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So then what is pansexual?
This is a very kind of, I think, internet-specific argument that people will get way too worked up over, in my opinion. Basically, that at some point, people were like, bisexual sort of suggests that there's only two genders that you can be attracted to. And what if you're attracted to more genders? And there are also a lot of bisexual people who are like, no, I'm just attracted to everybody. And so whether or not you feel the need to label yourself differently based on that, I think is just a personal choice. But I think writ large, the bisexual community has made it pretty clear that no, we're not trying to exclude people who are not male or female. That's not the intention of the label. This is just the word that, developed in, I don't know, 60s or something. I don't know how long the word bisexual has been around. But this is the word that has been used to describe our community. And so that's the word we identify with. And some people, it's more important to them to be kind of explicit and literal. And I am attracted to all genders regardless.
You've only seen a couple episodes of Schitt's Creek, correct? You haven't seen The Wine The wine
I actually
shop.
have seen the wine
You've
clip.
seen that clip.
Mhm.
Okay. So if anybody hasn't seen it, it's always just kind of a nice. If you know who the characters are, you've probably seen the scene. But there are two characters that are in the wine shop. They're friends. They have actually had an encounter together. So she's a little confused because she just thought he was gay. So as they're picking out wine, she's like, so up until the other night, I just assumed that you only drink red wine. And he's like, oh, well, I like red wine and white wine. And I've been known to sample a rosé, and I have tried a red that used to be a white, and I just like wine. I just think that's kind of a great way to, yeah, for some people, it's just like, it doesn't really matter.
And I think that's also an important experience that some people who will describe themselves as bisexual or pansexual have, where they might have only had relationships with one gender, and people will look at them and be like, well, like, why are you not just straight or gay then? But the idea being that, like, of all the vast varieties of people out there, why would I state that, no, I'm only interested in this specific kind of person, and that
Yeah.
there's no possibility of me ever meeting a different kind of person that I might be into. And I think that's like a perfectly legitimate reason to identify as bisexual.
So some people would say that, again, I'm thinking of celebrities because that's generally like a lot of who you see publicly, people speculating about and then them like explaining, I guess. And I, not on purpose, saw like a clip of an interview with Kendall Jenner. And she was like, I guess people have like asked if she was bisexual or something. And she's like, I think I can say no because I'm open enough that at this point in my life, because I wouldn't have a problem with it, I think that I would have experienced that by now if I were going to, and I thought that was kind of an interesting answer.
Mm-hmm.
Bad Bunny, his answer being, no, I'm straight. I would call myself straight, but I don't know what could happen in the future.
Right. Like, I'm straight at this point in my life.
Are you saying that some people would say the fact that you're open to that means you're not straight? Like the fact that you haven't experienced it yet, but you are a person who would not ignore it if you did experience it. Does that mean you're not straight to some people?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think like picking a label to describe yourself is a very personal thing. And that, yeah, it at a certain point, it almost becomes more a matter of like philosophy than anything else, right? There are a lot of people out there who will say, okay, well, if like Greek gods were real, then they would probably all be somewhere along the spectrum of bisexuality, because like you exist forever. What are you going to do? Never hook up with someone of the same gender, or never hook up with someone of the opposite gender? So like people would say that makes you bisexual. Not everyone feels that way, right? There are also a lot of people who identify exclusively as gay who have had relationships with people of the opposite gender who are like, yeah, no, I'm still gay. And like it's it's one of these things that people love to like get in arguments about, again, like very internet thing. But my perspective is sort of, I can't get in somebody's head and like feel what they're feeling and understand what experiences it is that are making them
Yeah.
feel a certain way about how they want to describe themselves. I think there's a reaction that people have of like, but what's true? What is truth? Are you actually attracted to people or not? And it's like,
Yeah.
you don't know. You can't get in someone's head and you can't understand that. And so I ultimately think it's like, what is the harm done really by just being like, okay, I'm going to respect how you describe your experience?
Yeah, people are really pushy about that. And I do think that it a lot of times comes from a place of wanting to see representation.
Mhm.
Like, we really want this person to say that they're this because it would be so lovely to have somebody publicly
Mhm.
be that. But yeah, for those people, like, of course, they should be able to define themselves or not define themselves however
Mhm.
they want. So, that sort of gray area, I think, is one of the things that I'm curious about with thinking that bisexual people are going to cheat. This like idea, I guess it is that if you're attracted to both sexes or however you want to put it, that I don't know. I'm not really sure where it comes from. Go ahead and elaborate on that, and then I'll go where I was going to go.
Well, this is really funny because I actually just like within a couple months ago had a conversation about this at work where it came up because of some personal stuff in my coworkers' lives. But someone was like, well, if you're bisexual, it's like you're at a restaurant. And if you're a vegetarian, then you can only get the vegetarian dinner. But if you eat meat, you can get the vegetarian dinner, or you can get the chicken dinner, or you can get the steak dinner. And I'm like, okay, this is actually a great analogy to disprove your point, because most people are still not getting 2 dinners, right? Like that, even if you eat meat, you're still not getting 2. Like, you're not, that's not a thing most people do, unless you're, like my brother and you're a cross country runner and you need like
You might get 2
6,000
dinners.
calories a day. But that's, I just thought that was really funny, because yes, that does actually prove my point. Your analogy is a great analogy.
That's a good point.
Also, for the record, setting aside who you're attracted, right? I mean, there are straight people and there are gay people who are attracted to only a very specific subset of people who have like really specific standards about who they want to date. And then there are people who like aren't that picky about who they date, right? It's not like being attracted to multiple genders defines how many people you are actually attracted to.
Yeah.
So setting aside the morality of like, why would you assume that just because someone is attracted to lots of different people, they're going to cheat? Also, numerically, this logic does not hold up, because even if you're a woman who is attracted to men and women, yes, the, 95% of straight men are available to you to date. And I don't know, 3% of women? It's actually not that big of an increase in the dating pool.
Yeah. So here are my couple of things, I guess. I see people like on social media talking about whatever famous people relationship they're talking about or whatever it is. And they're like, what bisexual hasn't had that friendship that everybody thinks you're together, but you're not, but like sometimes you cross the line, but sometimes you don't. Every bisexual has that friendship.
Well, I feel like that's true of gay people too, though. I feel like that's more just a description of like experiencing attraction that doesn't sort of fall within these socially prescribed, like, here is how courtship works between a man and a woman. Like, those rules are not as clear and not as calcified, I think, when you're queer. And so you do get a lot more relationships that are like, are we friends? Are we friends with benefits? Are we like in a relationship? What is happening here? And like, I don't think that's a bisexual thing. I think that's a matter of not having those like really like strictly defined courtship rules.
So some of that is just heteronormativity. But I can also see the perspective if you describe yourself that way when you are in a relationship with that person, that maybe you're then questioning their friendships with people of the same sex, right? If you're looking at Irene and like she only likes women.
Side note, people are going to hear that and like be confused how that works with being non-binary.
Oh,
like,
sorry.
It's a thing that we don't need to get into right now, but it's fine. Just move past it.
Okay. So, but Irene is a lesbian.
Yes.
And so I would think that there would be levels of friendship. And I don't know, because I'm not in this situation. I'm just imagining how I would feel if this were me. That there would be levels of friendship that she could have with other women that you might be less comfortable with than if they were with guys, because she's not attracted to them, that she's not going to be attracted to them. I can look at my husband and like, I'm not going to think that much about he's spending a lot of time with that guy, or they're really close, or that person's opinion matters a lot, because I know he's not attracted to them, right? If I knew that he were attracted to both, or you knew that Irene was attracted to both, would it make you more wary of all friendships?
I mean, I think it definitely can play out that way. But I actually think what that's exposing is more, again, a weird set of rules that have been predominantly established by straight relationships. It's also just a matter of how much you trust your partner.
Well, and that's kind of where I ended up with this as I was thinking about it. Like, it really doesn't have to do with sexuality so much as it does with trust.
Right. I think that because there are so many people who end up in straight relationships, and again, there are all these rules that sort of funnel you towards that conclusion, and you end up married and you end up having a family, and you don't have to interrogate a lot of the context and emotion and relationship that actually undergirds that, because there's so much social backing for all of it, that I do think that a lot of people end up in those spots where they haven't had to develop like that level of trust with their partner. And so that, yeah, it would feel really threatening the same way if your husband's spending a bunch of time with another woman and you don't have a high level of trust in him, that it would also feel threatening if you knew he was attracted to men and he was spending a lot of time with another man. I personally feel in my relationship that Irene and I do have, I mean, I hope Irene has a lot of trust in me. Can't speak for her, obviously, but I'm at a place where I feel like I actually, it doesn't, like, she does have close relationships with other queer women, and that doesn't bother me because I just have a really high degree of trust in her.
Yeah. And probably trust in those if you know those or you've met those women too. I think that's part of it too. Like, and there's so much like complicated stuff that has to do with stereotypes and all of these things that sometimes it's not trusting the person that your spouse is friends with, not so
Yeah.
much trusting your spouse, right?
Right.
So I have also read, and I'm not going to repeat names because I don't want to be like part of spreading gossip, but I have read stories of two different female singers who I think since have come out as bisexual, that there were stories of them cheating on their spouse, their male spouse, with other women on the road because they didn't really consider it cheating.
That is, again, this is 100% straight people's fault. I mean, cheating on your partner is a bad thing. Don't cheat on your partner. But the reason that it is not considered cheating is because of this, like, very widespread idea in our culture that, yeah, that relationships between two women are not real relationships, that straight women kiss their friends all the time, and that's just like a thing that people do, and that lesbian sex is not real sex, that it doesn't actually mean anything. And that's, again, like a really, really deeply ingrained idea. It's why homophobia directed against women tends to manifest differently from homophobia directed against men, because I think the reason behind a lot of the homophobia directed towards men is like, you're renouncing your masculinity, you're like stepping away from this dominant sexual position that we have put you in, that you're supposed to occupy as a man, and that generates a lot of violence because queer men then get perceived as, like, basically being in this
Female.
social status of women. Whereas for queer women, there is a lot of sexual violence directed towards queer women, like the idea of corrective rape, like, if you just experience real sex, then you'll understand what you're missing. But there's also just a lot of erasure, right? That two women holding hands in public is not perceived as necessarily like signaling a relationship the way it might be with two men or a woman and a man. Yeah, there's just so many ways that homophobia towards women is a matter of just erasing, of calling your fiance your friend, for instance, of treating that relationship as not real, as opposed to it's real and it's a threat.
Yeah, although I do think not in like a violent way, but in sort of a belittling way. We see that we've talked about it with various TV shows in the past that women do a thing with not legitimizing male gay relationships a little bit. I think that fetishization of gay men that we've talked about, it's like, oh, this is attractive because I don't feel like I'm competing with another woman. And somewhere in your mind, like, you can still feel possessive of them because that's a different thing. That's not something you have to compete with.
Yeah, there is a weird thing that seems to happen that we're seeing a lot in some of the discourse around, say, heated rivalry, where, like, straight women are okay. And again, it is the same thing that straight men do with lesbians, right? That it's okay when it's like sort of in this fictional fantasy realm. But then once it comes to real life, I want everyone to be available to me.
Yeah, I think that's true.
But I do think that, to return to the original point, I think that erasure of women who are attracted to women and women's relationships with other women is why you then get situations where, like, women don't see themselves as cheating if they make out with their female friend when they have a boyfriend. And to be fair, there are also a lot of men out there who are like, hey, I want you to hook up with another woman because I think it'd be so hot.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of confusion in their minds about what they want sometimes. Put it that way. Not all men, but a lot of men. And I'm sure a fair number of women too. And all people. All people are sometimes confused.
Yeah, people are confused and they disappoint me. And that's true regardless of gender.
Yeah, we might not be feeling that good about humanity in general right now, gotta say. Yeah, I don't know. Can you think of anything else? Oh, because we kind of put a question out there for people about like what are your concerns about how people treat bisexual people or whatever. And there was something about like,
What I think happens is that because, like we've talked about, there is so much variety in the bisexual experience and people coming to it with so many different, reasons and things going on in their heads. It's a little bit like the story with the blind guys and the elephant, where everyone is kind of getting like a different piece of the experience.
wait, what story with the blind guys and the elephant?
You don't know about the story with the blind guys and the elephant?
I don't think I do.
And you have like there's 3 blind guys and there's an elephant that's just like standing there for some reason.
This story is already full of holes.
And one of them like has a hold of the elephant's tail. And again, the elephant is just like fine with this for whatever. Maybe it's like a tranquil. I don't know. And one of them has a hold of the elephant's tail, and he's like, oh, the elephant is like long and thin, and it has bristles on the end. And then another guy has a hold of the trunk, and it's like, no, 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 the elephant has like a long wriggly snake thingy. And then another one is like feeling its foot, and it's like, no, the elephant is like this, big foot thingy, right? That they're all feeling a different part of the elephant. That was like not how the story really goes, but I think there were different parts of the elephant involved.
I do get the point, but okay, yeah.
I don't know why those are the 3 things I said when like there are so many different parts of an elephant, like that's tough. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I know. I was like, well, I don't know. The tail of it are kind of similar.
Anyway, the point is that they're all getting a different idea of what the elephant is because they all have like this limited experience. So we did have someone talk about how they feel that so many bi women are in relationships with men and that they feel that there is pressure to be in a relationship with a man and that same-sex relationships are treated as inferior. And like that is a thing that I think they're like some bisexual people experience is like a pressure to, well, if you could be in a relationship with a man, why aren't you in a relationship with a man?
Yeah. I mean, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, right? That like, I mean, I think I even said it myself. Like if you don't want people to know you're bisexual and you can be in straight presenting relationships, of course you would do that.
Yeah. And it's another kind of aggravating internet discourse thing is people will say, well, bisexual people actually have privilege because they can be in a relationship that's straight presenting, whereas gay people can't do that. And it's like, okay, but that also means like sacrificing community and having your identity acknowledged and legitimization of the rest of your life experiences. Like, I guess in the sense that you're not going to get beat up for holding hands with your spouse in public, that's a kind of privilege, but it's not really privilege.
It's good to know that persecution complexes exist across all boundaries.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that it can also go the other way for a lot of people, right? That a lot of bisexual men get told, you're not really bisexual. This is just like a stop on the way to being gay.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that so many times. Like, yeah, you're just gay.
Which is like mean. Like, again, it really comes back to like maybe they decide they're gay later on. Who cares? Why don't you just trust what someone says about
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, that's kind of infantilizing, right? Like, now I'm assuming that you're a gay man. And because I'm assuming you're a gay man, obviously you don't know what you have no clue what your own sexuality is.
Like, the hilarious thing about this is that scientists have actually been like, we should search whether bisexual men do exist. In 2020, the year of our Lord 2020, people are researching whether bisexual men actually exist.
Getting right on that.
And you will be shocked to hear that there is robust evidence for bisexual orientation among men.
Okay, how did they test this? I'm so curious. Did they like measure like do like biofeedback kind of stuff?
This controversy can be resolved using objective genital responses of men to male and female erotic stimuli. We combine nearly all available data from 8 previous. So not only are they studying this in the year of our Lord 2020, there have been 8 previous studies on this. American, British, and Canadian studies to form a data set of more than 500 men, much larger than any previous individual study, and conducted rigorous statistical tests. Results provided compelling evidence that bisexual identified men tend to show bisexual genital and subjective arousal patterns. Male sexual orientation is expressed on a continuum rather than dichotomously. So exactly what bisexual people have been telling you this whole time.
It's almost like they and no one else actually knows what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. Additional thoughts, concerns, let us know. Next time, we are going to talk about media and kind of an outshoot from that, other companies, and like, what is it when something is just problematic and you want to avoid it? What are things that are like worth organizing boycotts around, or there are boycotts against? Your example was kind of, we are boycotting Harry Potter. Some people just might not want to watch Netflix because it is bad for the movie business or something. So if you guys have any examples that come to mind, or things that you personally are either boycotting and why, or that you find problematic, but you still kind of feel like, well, that's a choice. I'm not going to like judge you if you watch Netflix, but here's why I choose not to, or something like that. Let us know. Catch you next time.
Bye.
If you found this episode interesting, informative, amusing, please review and follow us on your podcasting platform of choice. Getting those reviews and follows really helps us show up more in the algorithm and be able to reach more people to help them. You can find us on social media, Instagram, and Threads at queerkid.straightmom, Blue Sky at qksm.bsky.social, and Facebook at Queer Kid Straight Mom. We are no longer on Twitter.